Alright, this is just the second part of a response to Gary DoNotGod about on my video on something to do with evolution and original sin, something like that, to do with feelings. In part one I was talking about feelings and how, yes, of course, feelings came first, but feelings aren't facts. Feelings might be the origins of meanings, of the idea of the possibility of meanings, but they don't articulate meanings. And then the second part I was talking about consciousness and how, contrary to what I think you was kind of suggesting there, Gary, consciousness doesn't just kind of spring into being at some point in the evolutionary narrative. It's a slow accumulation of bits of random solutions to local problems, which we eventually accumulate into this thing we've got, which we think of as consciousness now. Just a couple of these bits something to add to that. Alright, yeah, you had a problem, yeah, and I can understand why I have to say. You had a problem with this phrase that I used about us living in a different architectural moment. Yeah, it wasn't a good phrase, I have to say. What I was trying to do there, you probably guessed this, but I was trying to draw this picture of evolution as a series, not as a single moment when modern humans the crucial thing about modern humans coming into being at the moment of consciousness, but rather of a whole series of building blocks, one of which sure was this accumulation of consciousness, but there's plenty of other building blocks. And you can't just look at one building block and kind of judge the whole edifice by that. That's what I meant by kind of architecture, but the metaphor isn't great, so I can understand why it was a bit glitchy, that. And I think the one I used in the last video, which was about how the 4Fs of whatever it was, yeah, kind of, I think that's a better metaphor. But either way, all I'm saying there is that looking to a single moment or to a single episode in our evolutionary history, however important it might seem, and discounting all the other moments is invalid, really, because it's not as though that everything doesn't reduce to that moment. Things accumulate around that moment, but you work with the accumulation. You don't work with the bedrock. You don't work with the basics. You work with the thing that's been made. And I think that's what we're doing, really. Okay, just two last points. Firstly, you say this: what will we evolve to? And it's still a desire equation. Brilliant. Yeah, that's a great question. What will we evolve to? I haven't a bloody clue. I haven't a clue. But I do know this. I think if by some weird anomaly, if some creature in the Jurassic had been able to ask that question, in between fighting and in between this cycle of, consumption and reproduction you talk about, if these two creatures in this Jurassic battle for supremacy and locked into this cycle of pain and pleasure, and I think if they'd been able to turn to each other and had said, one had said, what will we evolve into? I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have said, well, we won't evolve at all. We'll just stay in this battle forever, because of course they didn't. We did evolve into something. We are different. And we've got that in our history, but we've also got a whole bunch of other stuff in our history. And I think the same applies today. Whatever we evolve into, and I don't think our body's going to evolve that much. I think it will be an evolution of culture and an evolution of societies rather than an evolution of bodies. But whatever we evolve into, it will probably be as different to consciousness as consciousness is to those, what do you call those, like wind-up toys or those animated rocks you spoke about. It's going to be as different as that. So, and as impossible to imagine as that difference, really, I guess. You continue that by saying that it's whatever we evolve into, it's still a desire question, because we dragged something about dragging our capacity to be harmed into the future, which is, yeah, I mean, it's true, but only in the sense that, if you're an animal, you drag your tail around. The tail doesn't wag the animal, you know what I mean? So yes, of course, we're dragging our capacity to be harmed into the future with us, and we've got our capacity to be harmed here. But to be honest with you, I don't remember the last time I was actually harmed, at least not harmed in the way that that mattered to my ancestors, when those reflexes, those fight, flight, feed, fornicate reflexes were being honed, when those positive and negative attributes were beginning to be experienced as positive and negative feelings of pleasures and pains. I can't remember the last time I felt harmed like that. I've got kind of analogues of that. I've got the more sophisticated psychological complex sentence equivalents of that, things like blows to my self-esteem, or I might occasionally get I might get heartbroken, or I might be depressed by the state of the world, all these kind of things. But this is sophisticated stuff, and it's using those four F's. It's using consumption and reproduction. It's using pleasure and pain in different ways, and it's starting to spell out complex sentences of human experience. I suppose that's all I'm saying there, really. What else? Yeah, I made a note here, but I don't really know what I meant by it, which was about feeling and thinking not being two different things. Yeah, I think towards the end of your video, I mean, it's not at the beginning and in the middle. I think you quite rightly talk about thinking being this R plus R plus R thing, some complexifying of a set of reflex arcs and feedback loops and all that turning into thinking. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right with that. But towards the end, you start talking about feeling and thinking as if it was two different things. So you can kind of think about our feelings and have feelings about our thoughts. No, I don't think we can really. I think it appears different, when we talk about it as if it was different. But I'm not sure. I don't think it is really. It's just that's just what thinking's about, really. I think thinking and feeling is the same thing. Yeah. Okay. I hope that makes sense anyway.